The clock read 3:17 a.m., but Daniel Reed couldn't sleep. Piles of bills and investment reports were scattered across the desk, silent witnesses to a life he thought he controlled, but that, in reality, controlled him. The stillness of the night offered no comfort. It was accusatory. Every red number, every postponed decision, reminded him that he didn't own his time, his family, or his life. The house was large, modern, lit only by the bluish glow of the open laptop. Everything, the marble floors, the minimalist artwork, the panoramic view of Boston, screamed success. But inside, the emptiness was deafening. Success came at a price. Sleepless nights, conversations reduced to numbers, and people turned into goals. That night, as he stared at the spreadsheet in front of him, something gnawed at him. A number out of place. An investment loss. But it wasn't the money itself. It was what it represented. The feeling of loss, of being out of control, of helplessness. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and tried to remember the last time he'd slept without thinking about money. He couldn't. Before diving into this story, if you want to learn how to take control of your life and stop letting money or any other pressure own you, subscribe to the channel now. Don't miss the next stories that could change the way you make choices. A sound broke the silence, a phone notification. It was a message from his ex-wife Laura. "Daniel, please don't forget Emily's birthday tomorrow. She's still expecting your call." Daniel's chest tightened. Emily, his 16-year-old daughter. The only person who still looked at him without seeing dollar signs. But somehow he always found an excuse to delay. A meeting, a project, a deadline. He typed a short reply but didn't send it. How could he explain to his own daughter that he didn't own his life? That money owned him, dictated his schedule, his decisions, even the way he loved? The clock struck 3:31 a.m. Daniel stood, walked to the window, and watched the city sleep. Distant lights blinked in buildings, cars crossed empty avenues, and he saw his reflection in the glass. A man in an expensive suit, eyes tired, soul mortgaged. Suddenly, a memory struck him like lightning. His father years ago, sitting in a wooden chair, saying, "Son, money is a great servant but a terrible master." Young and ambitious, Daniel had laughed at it. Now the phrase felt like a curse. The laptop pinged again. An email. Subject, urgent, extraordinary meeting 7 a.m. Without thinking, he opened it. More pressure. More demands. More promises that everything would be worth it. But something inside him began to crack. A silent discomfort, like a forgotten part of him screaming for help. He closed the laptop. His heart raced. He went to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and rested his hands on the counter. When did all this become a prison? He whispered to himself. The kitchen lights reflected on his sweaty face. For the first time, Daniel realized he wasn't trying to control the money. It was fear. Fear of loss. Fear of being seen as a failure. Fear of being worthless without numbers to prove his value. And in that moment, between the distant hum of night traffic and the relentless ticking of the clock, Daniel understood. Money wasn't the problem. It was the mirror. The mirror of everything he refused to face. He looked again at the paper-covered desk, took a deep breath, and whispered, "I guess it's finally time to pay the real price." The camera, in cinematic vision, slowly pulls back, showing Daniel alone, shrouded in the dim light of the silent house. A man surrounded by achievements but suffocated by the absence of himself. Then the clock sound returned. Louder. Heavier. As if every second reminded him, time is the one resource money can never buy. Gray morning light filtered through the curtains, casting shadows over the paper-strewn desk. Daniel Reed breathed slowly, aware that every breath was measured, calculated, just like his life had been for years. Coffee cooled in the mug, laptop charts flickered, and he realized once again that every victory came at the cost of sleepless nights and lost days. The phone vibrated with a notification from the bank. An investment that once seemed safe now showed significant losses. Each red number tightened his chest. He closed his eyes, trying to ignore it, but the world was relentless. Urgent emails, meetings popping up out of nowhere, demands that couldn't wait. The illusion of control was crumbling. A message from Emily blinked on his WhatsApp. "Dad, can you call me when you have a moment?" The simplicity of it was almost painful. Daniel felt a tightening in his chest. Not guilt, not anger, but the awareness that every choice made in the name of money was costing pieces of himself, his daughter, his life. The phone rang. It was Laura, his ex-wife, voice calm but heavy with concern. "Daniel? Emily misses you. You need to take a break." He nodded but hung up without really listening. Every second away from reports, meetings, and numbers felt like wasted time, though inside he began to sense that he might be losing something far more valuable. His own life. The day progressed with minor crises. Suppliers calling, clients threatening to break contracts, unexpected reports. Each event amplified the pressure, reminding him that the control he so prized was only an illusion. Daniel began to see that his victories were measured by social and financial approval, not freedom or happiness. He stood and walked to the window. The city below seemed indifferent, moving in sync with invisible numbers defining people's worth. A chill ran down his spine as he realized he was part of the game, a pawn on a board where everyone was trapped. In the afternoon, alone in his office, he looked at his reflection in the window glass. A stylish man, tired eyes, face marked by tension. It wasn't just Daniel, it was the embodiment of a system that owned him. For the first time, he wondered how much of his life he had truly lived and how much had been surrendered to money's price. Memories hit hard. His father saying money is a terrible master, his first jobs, the pursuit of status and recognition, Emily's childhood that he barely witnessed. Each memory brought pain and regret, but also clarity. He needed something more than numbers and contracts. A small gesture changed everything. A call from an old friend, someone who had chosen a simpler, purpose-filled life instead of chasing figures, brought up questions Daniel never wanted to face. Are you truly happy? Was every choice for money worth it? Hours passed. Every decision, every email and message response felt insignificant against the weight of his doubts. Night fell and Daniel finally closed his laptop. He sat in silence, listening to his own breathing. The sound was deep, almost like a drum signaling that something inside needed to change. In the silence, a spark of clarity emerged. He realized he wasn't alone in his financial and emotional prison. Everyone around him was part of the same mechanism, but he could finally start deciding whether to keep playing or break the rules. Has it always been this way, or did I let it happen? The camera pulls back, showing Daniel alone, surrounded by symbols of success that weren't truly his. Outside, the city breathed indifferently. Inside, a restlessness grew that might finally lead him to question everything. The first morning light touched the window glass, reflecting on Daniel's tired face. For the first time in months he didn't feel rushed, just curious about what could be different. The laptop was closed, papers stacked, but the weight that once crushed him felt lighter, almost manageable. The phone buzzed with a message from his daughter. "Dad, want to have breakfast together?" He smiled. Not an automatic reaction but a conscious decision, to prioritize what truly mattered. For the first time, Daniel felt he could choose, not out of obligation but out of will. the office felt different. Every object, every document, once a source of anxiety, now seemed like a tool, not a master. He walked to the window and watched the city wake, sensing that time was not the enemy, but a precious resource to be used wisely. Past memories returned, but not with guilt. His father, the money lesson, his daughter, everything now made sense. He understood that wealth wasn't about accumulation, but about choosing what mattered, valuing freedom over slavery, connection over status. Throughout the day, Daniel took small actions reflecting this shift. He responded to Emily's messages mindfully, returned calls he had delayed, breathed between tasks instead of drowning in them. Each act reinforced the sense that he could live without being owned by money. At lunch, he decided to walk to the nearby park. The fresh air, the smell of wet grass, and the distant sounds of children playing brought a sensation he hadn't felt in years: true freedom. Daniel realized the choices that truly mattered weren't in numbers or contracts, but in how he spent his time and attention. In the afternoon, he looked in the office mirror. It wasn't just the reflection of a tired man. It was someone who finally recognized his own worth, independent of figures or external achievements. He whispered to himself, "Money doesn't own me. I own my life." The distant city sounds continued, but Daniel felt silence within. A silence not empty, but full of purpose and clarity. The clock no longer dictated his pace, he did. Later, a call came from a friend still caught in Boston's frantic rhythm. The conversation would have caused anxiety before, but now he responded calmly and firmly. For the first time, Daniel realized he could interact with the world without letting it own him. At day's end, Daniel sat at the table with Emily, talked, laughed, and for the first time felt that every decision, every choice could truly be his. The world outside kept chasing numbers and goals, but inside him, something had changed forever. Daniel finally understood the real price of wealth, and the freedom it could provide. The camera slowly pulls back, showing Daniel and Emily in the kitchen, bathed in sunset light. Success was no longer measured by figures, but by the value of each moment lived. If this story made you realize that true power lies in taking control of your life, not in the numbers we chase, subscribe to the channel. Here you'll find more reflections and stories that help turn choices into real freedom.